Live and on tape from the heart of the Silicon Valley. It's the show that really thought Mike McCarthy was actually going to get canned at halftime today. Welcome to the House of Takes late night show. And as always, I am Dave DeBaugh coming to you from the heart of the Silicon Valley, if you will, a West Coast opinion on what went down in the National Football League today. Two games for us to cover. The total and utter meltdown in Dallas. I can only imagine what the conversations are going to be like in the Joneses family on Monday about Mike McCarthy and what their actual options are. We're going to talk about that. Plus, of course, the big Lions victory. Eminem got what he wanted from Matthew Stafford. He got that one win that he asked Stafford for on Twitter yesterday. So we're going to dive straight in to the Detroit Lions victory at home against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I want to preface this by this, at least today, I was wrong about both games. Look, I thought the Rams were going to go into Detroit and find a way to win. I thought that the Dallas Cowboys, as well as 95% of the rest of America, were going to take care of the Green Bay Packers easily. No one outside of the Green Bay Packers organization, as well as the immediate city of Green Bay, which doesn't really have a lot of people, really believed that Jordan Love was actually going to go into Dallas and do what he did today. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But as far as Detroit goes, look, it has been such a long time. I feel bad for the fans of Detroit. They've had some great players there that were, quite frankly, never able to get them over the hump. And I'm not really sure that the over the hump means the same thing for the Detroit Lions that it means for the rest of the people. Look, I remember when the Boston Red Sox finally won a World Series and people were finally, who were in their 80s and 90s, were allowed to go quietly into the night. That sort of thing is going on in Detroit right now over just one playoff win. Look, the Detroit Lions have historically been a bad organization for quite some time. And we know that Dan Campbell has come in and set a new direction. I saw some crazy things in the media this week talking about, well, maybe Dan Campbell's not the right person for the job. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to play some Dan Campbell video for you next. Here you go.
And the Rams had to burn 2 timeouts, I guess.
That is arguably the best environment I've ever been in. That was absolutely electric. And I think what's crazy is I was coming down for pregame warm-up, and you could just feel it. It was humming. The building was humming, and I swear you could feel the electricity down the tunnel from where I was coming down, and it only just grew from there. So, man, our fans showed up in a big way. That was clearly, and I thought, man, for 2 years now, that building's been rocking. It was different today. That was a whole nother level, which is what the playoffs are all about. So our fans showed up in a big way. They helped us win this game.
All right. That was Dan Campbell there talking about the big Detroit Lions victory. And kind of interesting because he's really sort of even keel for a Dan Campbell. So good to see that the Detroit Lions pulled this off. Now, let's talk about the game a little bit, though. The Los Angeles Rams definitely dominated, at least in the second half of the game, in terms of actually being able to drive the ball down the field, whereas the Detroit Lions really struggled a lot in the second half. As soon as the Rams were able to get really any kind of pressure on Jared Goff, the Lions did the right thing since they had a lead and they ran the ball a lot. the Matthew Stafford led Los Angeles Rams. I mean, Stafford and Chris Collinsworth, I don't know how many times he said he's throwing darts. Oh, that guy is just out there throwing darts tonight. After a while, it's ridiculous. But that being said, Stafford was throwing darts. Stafford was doing a great job. But the second the Los Angeles Rams actually ended up in the red zone tonight, it was nothing but trouble for the team. I remember back to just 2 years back to their Super Bowl year, and they had absolutely no problem getting Cooper Kupp the ball in the end zone when they were in the red zone. They ran the same plays over and over and over again in the red zone, and they continued to not work. I was sitting there watching. I was like, a simple adjustment. Instead of going to the corner, why not come back in? And Cooper Kupp would have had a touchdown. He would have had 2 touchdowns easily. Look, it's a complicated game, is the National Football League for sure. You can certainly second guess some of the play calls and play designs in the red zone. But you have to hand it to the Detroit Lions defense for playing as well as they did once they had their backs up against the wall. And then finally, my final thought on this particular game tonight is the referees. And I will say this. The missed pass interference call, and I could say that maybe 5 times for the Rams in this game and maybe 2 times for the Lions in this game. So the bad calls against the Rams were significantly more than the bad calls against the Lions. I'm certainly not saying there was any kind of fix in place. It's just how the cookie crumbles. But that call that wasn't made on 4th down, the pass that ended the season for the Los Angeles Rams, was flat out ridiculous. I think that that when something is as blatantly bad from a pass interference call in the last 5 minutes of the game, we should be able to go to New York and get that changed, because that was clearly pass interference on Puka. The guy grabbed his jersey from behind literally about a second and a half before the ball even got there. I thought he was going to actually rip it. It was a call that should have been made that was missed, which is really one of the reasons, I'm not the only reason, but one of the reasons the Los Angeles Rams are on a flight back to LA and getting ready for vacation. All right. And then finally tonight, the Dallas Cowboys. What a mess. What an absolute mess. Look, I know that Bill Belichick would not have had this particular Dallas Cowboy team with this particular roster not prepared to start the game, because that is exactly what happened in this particular game. Look, the Green Bay Packers ran up and down the field on one Dan Quinn's defense. Look, anybody that's thinking Dan Quinn's the right head coach for their team, if your objective is 500 football and or to get into the playoffs and maybe occasionally win a game, then he's your guy. I mean, look, if you're the Carolina Panthers, you'd be happy with that. But Dan Quinn is not the head coach that's probably going to take your team all the way to the Super Bowl unless your roster is fully loaded. Look, this defensive performance by the Dallas Cowboys at home tonight was unexpected and unacceptable. Clearly, at the end of the day, the blame has to be handed straight over to Mike McCarthy. And while I don't call for head coaches to get canned, I really don't. 12-5, 12-5, and 12-5. That is a reflection of good coaching, and it's also a reflection of a good organization that knows how to put a good football team on the field. It's also a reflection of the fact that the Commanders are in your division. Anyways, that being said, still, this is a game that the Dallas Cowboys, while they could lose it, sure, in a close game, sure, I'd understand. I'd at least understand that. But to get blown out the way they got blown out is just absolutely unacceptable. And I was texting a couple buddies at halftime, and I said this could happen. But with Mike McCarthy getting canned at halftime, I've been waiting for it to happen in the National Football League for quite some time. And but they scored a touchdown before the end of the half, and so I knew that pipe dream wasn't going to actually happen. But I mean, it was just disgraceful. And if you're a Cowboys fan, I mean, who else could you put the blame on? And to be fair, if you can be fair, the issue really was in the first quarter and a half of the game, the Dallas Cowboy defense did not look prepared. They did not make any adjustments, and they just allowed Jordan Love to sit back in the pocket with all the time in the world, and do his very best Aaron Rodgers on the field football impersonation. All right, that is it for my thoughts on the NFL Wild Card Weekend for today. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet to the big channel, please go ahead and do so. And of course, like this video. For the House of Takes a Late Night, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.